Hey, I'm Isabel Bercaw, and when I was 12 years old, I founded a multi-million-dollar bath and body products company called the Bomb Bath. After 5 years of building my own brand, I've discovered a passion for helping young and innovative entrepreneurs tell their stories. Hopefully, you'll be inspired by the guests here on Build-A-Biz and maybe even motivated to start a business of your own. Let's get into it.
This is Build-A-Biz with Isabel Bercaw.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Build-A-Biz. Today, we have a super cool guest with us. Her name is Samaira Mehta, and she is the self-taught coding phenom, teaching Gen Z and beyond about her trade through a series of board games and some movements that she started. Samaira, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about how your whole entrepreneurial journey began?
Yeah, of course. So I first started learning how to code when I was 6 years old. And when I started learning, I was actually introduced to it by a prank that my dad did on me. And this prank was basically where he showed me a button on his computer which said, "Press this if you're beautiful." And he told me to give it a try, but when my mouse pointer actually touched the "You are beautiful" command, it just sort of disappeared. And I was really confused. I was like, how did you do that? Am I not beautiful? What's going on here? And my dad told me that he used something called coding to create this prank. And that got me really excited because I wanted to be able to create my own pranks like that for my friends. So I started learning how to code. And then, I tried the prank on people like my friends. And I'm like, hey, I created this using coding. Have you ever tried coding? Do you like it? And all my friends thought that coding was boring, coding was hard, it was frustrating, it was definitely not something that they enjoyed. And for me, that was confusing. I was like, coding is so fun, you could do so many cool things with it. Why don't you like coding? And now that I look back, I think the main reason that my friends didn't like coding was because they were introduced to it in maybe a not so fun way. My dad introduced it to me with a prank, which was fun, exciting, but maybe it was not like that for my friend. And they got bored, maybe because they started with the hardest problems and they just thought it was either too hard or too frustrating. But at the time, my 7-year-old self thought, I have to make coding fun for my friends because it's so fun, it's so cool, and I want to be able to code with them, not just alone. So I decided to take something that they did like, which at the time were board games. They love board games. And I thought maybe I could teach coding through this board game. And I think that's where my entrepreneurial journey began, and that's where my creation of Coderbunnyz began. So now Coderbunnyz is a board game that simplifies the complex coding concepts and teaches them in more of a fun way. And Coderbunnyz brings together my love for, of course, coding and board games, but also my love for buddies. And it teaches them this whole computer science thing in a really fun farmyard type of adventure. So that's my first sort of creation. I've also created Coderminds and Codermars. These are two other board games. And these ideas sparked in a very similar way with how Coderbunnyz started, just sort of a problem I was facing. And I created these board games to develop solutions to them. So Coderminds is the world's first ever artificial intelligence board game that simplifies the intricacies of how AI works. And Codermars brings together my love for coding and AI with my interest in outer space and Mars. So these are sort of the main, products, you could call it. But I've also started a few movements and a few initiatives. I've started the Yes 1 Billion Kids Can Code, a STEM initiative, and the BAB Entrepreneurship Academy as well.
That is so amazing. I seriously can't believe that when you were 6 years old, instead of being like, oh, I think I'm really excited about playing in the dirt today, I'm going to go and learn to code. Like, that's super insane. Who was your inspiration to kind of get into that and to pick up that hobby?
Yeah, so as I said, I think it was really my dad where it all started, because he was the one who introduced me to coding in such a fun way that made me want to learn more about it. And just in the whole process of designing Coderbunnyz, he was really supportive of me, and yeah, he was really just always there for me, as well as my mom. She was also really, really supportive and supported my craziest ideas of really creating a board game when I was 7, 8 years old. So I think my mom and dad have always been really supportive of me, and that's really shaped me as a person. But I think I also gained lots of inspiration from just the outside world, right? There's so many women who are making groundbreaking changes in STEM fields, and it's honestly just so inspiring to see.
Totally. And now you are totally an inspiration for other young people and children, and especially women who want to get into the field. Why do you think it's especially important for women to get into the field of coding and software development?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this could be summarized in 3 words, and that's really just creativity, compassion, and collaboration. And women bring these things to the table. And I truly feel that, the creativity, the different perspective, the compassion side of it, and really just putting together both worlds' ideas, the collaboration, that side that women bring is really important with our upcoming technologies, especially like the ones to help out with COVID-19. We can't have just one mindset or just one point of view at the table. We need the voices of women as well, because I truly believe that women can be bold and decisive, but at the same time, really kind and empathetic. And I think that's really, really what we need with all of our upcoming technologies in both computer science, artificial intelligence, or just technology in general. And this way, we can really work together to find a solution in even the hardest of times, because we all know that the best ideas only come to light when all ideas are put together.
That's so cool. And is that something that you tell people at your seminars that you host?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it, because, when I started, I never thought that there would be a tech gender gap. I really just thought, just like lots of other things in the world, if it's something men can do, women can do as well. But I soon realized that, especially for tech type fields, that is very much untrue. Women only represent 20-ish% of all the people in the technology field, whereas men represent 80. So I think there is a huge gender gap. And when I started learning more about this, I realized that this was something I wanted to advocate for as well. And that's a huge part of what I talk about in my seminars.
That's so cool. And how does it feel to have given over 500 seminars / speeches to thousands of people?
Yeah, I mean, it really is really awesome. I think just something that started out as just a Saturday afternoon project of me trying to make coding fun for my friends, I'm now able to give talks and workshops on it, and I'm able to share my love for this field with others. And it's really awesome, how when you really work towards something, and if it's something you really want, you can make your dreams a reality.
That's so cool. So then your dream was to be able to teach over 15,000 people now how to code.
Yeah, and it's pretty insane just through my workshops. Yeah.
That's seriously so amazing. And may I ask you, so you're teaching them through a board game. Why a board game? Why not something a little more virtual, if you will?
Absolutely, and I think that's a very great question. So honestly, the first reason that I just started with a board game was because it was what my friends enjoyed the most. That was really my just true inspiration behind it. My friends loved games, especially board games. And I thought, okay, well, since they love board games so much, why not, just teach coding through a board game to prove to them how fun it could be. But as I started actually developing the board game, I realized there were so many other benefits behind a board game. One of the major ones is actually kinesthetic learning. studies show that when you physically touch things like you do in a board game, you are more likely to remember them and apply them. And that's a lot of what I'm trying to do through Coderbunnyz, teach the concepts that are applied in computer science so that when you do the real coding, it's a lot easier and it's a lot more fun when you do it because you understand how it works. So kinesthetic learning was one of my other main reasons, but playing board games bring happiness to people. You work together as a team, you can spend time with your family, lots of creativity and collaboration is developed in the process. So there are so many other benefits that we gain through a board game that something more virtual or digital, which is what coding is all about, we can gain through.
That's so cool. And it's almost like you've kind of built a bridge for people who haven't necessarily taken the first step into that world of coding. You've built a bridge for them to take just to get into that world, and that's really cool. And I've even noticed with my own business that when you have that human interaction, great things happen, and then technology will always supplement that. We ended up doing a mall cart for a couple years actually at a local mall of ours because we wanted to see how people would react in person to our bath bombs. We could always go to one of our retailers and maybe be a little bit creepy and spy on whoever was buying. Now and then my sister will be at Target, my sister and I will be at Target, and we'll see someone pick them up and we'll just kind of go, oh, bath bombs, that's so awesome. Super funny. But we learned that through watching people with the interactions with our products, we actually learned a lot of awesome things. For example, we did not want to sell them loose after watching people interact with our products because we were people are putting their noses on these. This is super unsanitary. And this was even before the pandemic. So I think that that's something really important that people listening can take away from this is, always, even if you're doing something virtual or digital, if you will, it's super important to have that interaction. And I think that that's something that you mentioned earlier that especially women can bring to the table is that a personable compassion in those conversations. So I think that's really cool. You really hit that on the head.
Okay, so Samaira, we're actually going to take a really quick music break, and then when we return, we will continue the interview. Welcome back, everybody, from the music break. If you're just joining us now, this is Isabel Bercaw, and you're listening to Build-A-Biz, and I'm here with Samaira Mehta, and she has created 3 board games that help people who don't really know much about coding learn to code, learn about AI, and learn about space, which is super cool. Samaira, let's get back into it.
So we kind of covered the coding side of things in terms of just kind of getting off the ground. So then what are the next 2 board games meant to do for players?
Yes, of course. So my 2 other board games are Coderbunnyz and Coderbunnyz. And Coderbunnyz is, as I said, the world's first ever board game that actually teaches the concepts that go into artificial intelligence. And a lot of my inspiration just behind Coderbunnyz was I was around 9 or 10 years old, and I'd just been hearing so much about AI and how it was going to essentially change the world, how it's applied in the self-driving cars, the drones, the medical advancements, the robots that do things like our laundry or dishes. And I was so tired of hearing so much about it, but not really understanding, in depth how it works. I mean, I kind of understood it, but, never really fully. So just like anyone would do, the first thing I did was just go and search up on the internet, what is AI? But what I saw didn't really clarify my doubts. So instead, I went to my dad, the same person who introduced me to coding, and he actually very recently, at the time, started working in the field of artificial intelligence as well. And I asked him, hey, Dad, can you teach me about this AI thing, how it works, how it's applied, and all sorts of other things that really go into it. And I had brought up, the fact that I wanted to learn more about AI on several other occasions. But once again, those conversations had never really been finished to really my full understanding. But this time I saw that my dad was a lot more interested and wanted to help me learn, probably because, he just started working in the field himself. But I started learning a lot about AI, the various parts, the components that go into it. And it was honestly, once again, something really fascinating for me to learn. And I thought, this is this is so cool, but at the same time so important. All these medical advancements, all these technologies that will make our lives easier, make our lives better, will be created using AI. And I thought about, it's really, really important that our generation gets introduced to this so that they could be equipped with these skills that will change the world. And that was a lot of my inspiration behind Coderbunnyz. And I decided, since I'm already working in the board game field, board games are something I love, what better way to teach artificial intelligence than through a board game? And that's sort of where Coderbunnyz began. It took me about, I'd say, like 6 months before I even had just like the rough idea of how the mechanics would work, since AI is something really, really digital, right? Something really done online. It was fairly hard to actually bring it on to a board game, but once I did get it to how I wanted to, and I felt like it really did teach the AI concepts, that's sort of when we worked with graphic designers, brought it to a reality. But yeah, that's basically my second board game, Coderbunnyz, and it's now available on Amazon and Walmart. And I think it's really, really important. As I said earlier, AI is really important for our generation, and being able to teach it through a board game makes it a lot easier for really anybody who wants to learn, and especially girls, because especially in the field of AI, girls and women are only represented 12%, which is very, very little. And I think a fun, simple board game like Coderbunnyz is the perfect way to bridge this gender gap in AI.
That's super awesome. And I feel like, I don't know if you're using AI to read my mind or something, but I was going to ask you, what's your motivation behind all your hard work towards creating these games? And you basically just answered it. You're doing it for the gals. So I love that. And then Coderbunnyz, that was inspired by the rover, launch in space and then now landing.
Yeah. So, actually I think it was December of 2018, 2019, around that time, I started hearing about this rover that NASA was launching that would go to Mars and collect rock samples to see if there ever was or if there ever is possibility for life on Mars. And of course, that was really, really fascinating to me at the time. And at the same time in school, I was also learning about outer space, especially Mars, and just the world possibly outside of our own. And these brought together, I thought, wow, this outer space, this world outside of our own is just so interesting, so fascinating to learn about. And I thought, maybe if there's a way, I really wanted to create a board game based around Mars because it just had been so fascinating to me. And I just loved reading more and more about it. And I thought, why not bring together my love for coding and AI and at the same time also put Mars into it. So now I have Coderbunnyz, which teaches about computer science and artificial intelligence through a fun Martian adventure. And at the same time, you learn things like the locations on Mars, facts about Mars, and all sorts of other things. So I think it's really interesting to see how all sorts of things come together. And now Coderbunnyz is also available. It actually released in October of 2020. It's now available on Amazon and Walmart. And very recently, a lot of you may have heard of the rover that actually had landed, and it was a very successful land, and it was really great to hear. And I'm really excited to see what other amazing discoveries are to come.
Mm-hmm. That's so amazing. I can't believe how self-motivated you are to learn these things. And I love that your parents support you. And a little point I kind of want to bring up is for the parents listening out here, I think something that I've been picking up from your story and that I've kind of recognized in my own story as well is that both of our sets of parents, they never told us no. Instead, they asked us how. So your dad, he was sort of asking you how are you going to learn about this? And then he would support you, obviously, and kind of give you some of his resources. And I kind of see that in my own story. My parents would never say, oh, no, you can't do that. No, you can't build a business. They would say, okay, well, how are you going to do this? And then that would get the wheels spinning. And I feel like that's something that you're almost teaching other children to do too with your coding games, or just any coding amateur, is through a game. I feel like you take it step by step, right? You're not really thinking, you're thinking a little bit ahead, but you're not thinking every single move through, because there's certain variables in games that you can't predict. And that's just like life. And I feel like you're kind of teaching people how to think about the how rather than the, no, I can't do this. Because once you're playing a game, it's not like you're going to go, oh, I'm going to stop halfway through and just leave everybody else hanging. You know, you're teaching people to follow through, and you're also teaching them to apply that creativity to solving everyday problems, which I totally love.
I absolutely agree. I think that is such an amazing analogy to compare it to. Board games have so many other, logical thinking benefits. Just like in life, you can't just leave it halfway, you have to finish through. And I think that is absolutely the perfect way to phrase it.
Yeah, I love it. And then I kind of want you to talk to us a little bit about your involvement with the UN. That's insane to me that you're 13 years old now and that you're going to UN meetings. That's actually insane. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So actually, in March, February last year, so February 2020, I got an invitation to be a part of the United Nations Assembly Hall in the headquarters in New York on International Women's Day to really just share my story with others. But unfortunately, it was around that time that COVID-19 hit very strongly. And just, I guess, a day before we were about to get on our flight, we received a call from the United Nations saying that, hey, with this huge spread of COVID-19, we don't know if it'd be safe for you to come. And even if you do come, we don't know if you'd be allowed into the assembly hall. So unfortunately, we were unable to go on the actual International Women's Day. But now I am very fortunate to still be in partnership with UN and UN Women. I'm a part of their Generation Equality mission, especially for International Women's Day. I think, working with the United Nations has been really awesome, and just their support for my work and my mission has been super surreal, and I'm really, really grateful to them for it.
That's so cool. And if you could describe your work and your mission in just a couple sentences, how would you describe that?
Yeah, of course. So I truly believe that computer science is the superpower for our generation. And I know that not every student will choose to become a professional coder when they grow. I totally understand. But I truly believe that a basic coding understanding, a basic understanding of AI will make them better thinkers, better leaders, and better creators for our coming generation. And that's a lot of what I'm doing. I'm currently working on an app to make this goal possible. Lots of other things are work in progress, but I truly believe that this is an achievable goal with really just one mission in mind: to make our generation better problem solvers and better thinkers. I also have started BAB Entrepreneurship Academy, where I share a lot of my skills that I have learned in my short 5-year entrepreneurial journey, but I truly feel like I've learned so much, and I'm really excited to be able to share that through BAB. So basically, participants start a business, they pitch it for the chance to win a certain amount of seed funding. In the last BAB, the prize was $2,000. So really just some seed funding to launch off their business, because I believe that our generation, the youth, have an amazing perspective that deserve to be heard through the businesses and solutions that they build and create. So yeah, that's just a little bit about what I do.
That's so cool. And honestly, I don't know what you're doing behind the computer with any kind of AI, but I was going to ask you what was next.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
But seriously, Samaira, thank you so much for being with us here today. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have left, but you're seriously so cool. And why don't you just tell everybody really quickly where we can find your products and what your social media tag is.
Absolutely. So you could find my products on Amazon and Walmart.com. And all of my social medias are at Coderbunnyz, spelled as Coderbunnyz.
That's so cool. Thank you so much for being on Build-A-Biz today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
All right, if you missed the beginning of this episode or you just want to listen to it again, definitely go to the Build-A-Bear YouTube channel where you can find a recording of the episode with Samaira. And also be sure to follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is isabel.bercaw. And then you can also follow Build-A-Bear Radio on Instagram. It's just Build-A-Bear Radio. And we will also be posting updates about future guests on Build-A-Biz and friendly reminders for you to listen in. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.